to the enactment of the Rights of Persons with Disability Act, which came into effect on 21st of March 2018 through the Act number 4 of 2018, the only legislation relating directly to persons with disabilities in Fiji was the 24-year-old Fiji National Council for Disabled Persons, or Act of 1994. In 2015, Mr. Speaker, amendments to LTA regulations relating to public service vehicles saw a promising outcome, with specific requirements to include disability-friendly features in public service vehicles. It was noted, Mr. Speaker, that the lack of effective enforcement of the legislation that aimed to address barriers for disabled accessibility to public service vehicles is too weak. Lack of collaboration and awareness and inclusion of disabled accessibility in legislation and policies governing sea and air transportation are yet to be formulated, and we urge the government to seriously look into this area. On the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2018, Honourable Speaker, Sir, the committee noted that in the audit that Professor Rob McCallum, who made a submission to the Standing Committee on Social Affairs during the consultation process of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Bill, suggested that Clause 29 of the Act, which deals with accessibility for disabled persons, that it correlates with Clause 42 of the 2018 Constitution. However, Honourable Speaker, the Professor further stated that it would be better if Clause 29 could be redrafted in order to align it with the Article 9 of the UN Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, as it does not cover just access to transport and buildings, but also to communications and to recreational areas. Similar statements, Honourable Speaker, Sir, were presented through written submissions of the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Regional Office of the Pacific, and United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific to the Standing Committee. The submission noted that Article 29 of the bill falls short of Article 9 of the CRPD, in particular by limiting the right of persons with disabilities to reasonable access to physical spaces, transport, and information, and not including communications. ICT technology, Honourable Speaker, Sir, and public services, while acknowledging that accessibility is critical to persons with disabilities, enjoyment of practically all rights under CRPD and other treaties, so lack or denial of accessibility could be considered discriminatory. Honourable Speaker, Sir, the committee noted in the audit report that the current management of LTA did not have knowledge of the 2015 legislative amendments. Similarly, the Department of Transport was also not aware of the 2015 amendments made to the LTA regulations. However, the committee noted that some work was undertaken, but after the amendments with regard to priority seating in PSVs and line markings for disabled persons. This, Mr. Speaker, Sir, indicates the lack of knowledge of the responsible agencies of the 2015 regulatory amendments relating to user-friendly PSVs for persons with physical disabilities, thus compromising the implementation and enforcement of the land transport or public service vehicle regulations which came into effect in 2015. On maritime, Honourable Speaker, Sir, and transportation, the maritime and air transportation are governed by the Maritime Safety Authority of the Fiji Act 2009, and Maritime Transport Act 2018, the Maritime Regulation Ship Registration Act of 2018. The committee reported, noted from the report that the inclusion of disabled accessible provisions in the governing legislations and regulations for sea and air transportation has not been effected. We urge the government, Honourable Speaker, to take this on board immediately as people travel daily, either by sea, by air, or on land. It was also noted, Mr. Speaker, that the Maritime Transport Policy of 2015 recognizes the constitutional rights of disabled persons to reasonable access to public transport with implications on the design of transport systems. Unfortunately, this is not happening in Fiji because there is lack of implementation and also legislations to ensure that these practices are enforced for the greater public of Fiji. Again, there's a need, Mr. Speaker, sir, to collaborate with the FNCDP and the government as the input is needed as far as inclusion is concerned. Honourable Speaker, sir, with this contribution on the motion, I thank you for this opportunity.